Hi everybody, it's Ellen. I'm looking to do some more reviews on our ecological friendly yarns. And today I'm talking about Etho, though on their site it's called Ethno, from Stenli Yarns. So I'm going to read you what it says because Etho is a eco yarn. And so what does that mean? It does not say that it's a GTO. So what it does say is Stenli Ethno yarn is made from wool by Bulgarian sheep. I buy Stenli from Pleda yarns in Bulgaria. And so locally sourced sheep for them. I will put the link in the description for this yarn in particular, but on the Pleta site. They're a really easy company to deal with, user-friendly website that's available in English if you're concerned about Bulgaria. They ship all over the world, and I usually order enough from them that I get free shipping, but that could just be something offered in Europe. So I'm not sure if there's that option in, say, North America or Australia, etc. So from Bulgarian sheep bred in a clean local area with minimum treatment during the production process. There is no air, water, or soil contamination during this process. It is also made locally, so there's no pollution created by transportation to manufacturing, etc. So this is, they say it's made according to centuries-old Bulgarian tradition, and therefore it has little environmental impact the way some of the mass-produced yarns can have with the carbon emissions, etc. So a good choice for those concerned about sustainability, renewable resources, carbon footprint. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about this yarn. So it's 100% eco wool. And that just means that the sheep and process are raised and tended to in a way that takes ecological concerns into consideration, if you're not familiar with that term. It feels like wool. It's 100% wool. It feels like 100% wool. It has a little bit of grab. Scratchy. Personally, I prefer not to have 100% wool against my skin. That's a personal thing. There are people out there who love wool. And so if you do, this feels like wool. It's not the scratchiest of wools that I have ever felt, but it's certainly, I don't think anyone is going to describe it as soft. Now, we'll see if after washing that changes at all, because I will do samples, and despite it saying not to, I will throw them in the washer. I will throw one in the dryer, and we'll see what happens, and then you can make your own decisions. Because yeah, I know that the reality for a lot of us is we don't have somewhere that we can, or the time to hand wash all of our stuff and lie it flat for sometimes days it takes for yarns and wools especially to fully dry out. So I will do the test and see what happens so you don't have to take the risk without knowing what it is you're risking. What else can I tell you about it? We have knitting needle recommendations 6 to 7. We have no crochet hook recommendations. He's pretty thick. I'd say he's at least a 4, if not a 5. I might think of him as a chunky 4. Yeah. So I'm probably going to start with a larger hook size, like a 6 or a 7. And we'll see what that looks like. Now, as I say always, I'm a very tight crocheter. If you are looser, you may want to go down a needle size or that. I will just tell you what I've done, and then you can adjust according to your own personal way of doing things. We all have our own ways. They're all great. They're all acceptable. You don't have to do what I do, but I will tell you what it is I do. He says 100 grams for 170 meters. Now I'm going to weigh them because I've been noticing with some of the specialty yarns, they don't weigh out with what they say they are. I'm going to put the computer down off my lap and turn around, grab my scale, and I haven't quite figured out how to do this on camera yet, but I'll put him on here and tell you. So I've got it set to grams, and he's 102. So weighs in exactly where he should be. I'm going to work him up, and I'll get back to you. So I'm only this far into my first sample granny square, and first of all, my finger hurts right here from the yarn going over it. It kind of has the texture of burlap, and I've run into my first knot. And yes, knots are expected in yarn, but it is a little disappointing to be only this far into a basic granny square and find this, especially in a yarn where the knots are not so easy to hide in your work. Okay, so I'm here with my worked up samples of Ethno. And as you can see, they are all 12 centimeters. They're all 12 centimeters. So I'm gonna leave one. I'm gonna put one in the washer, and I'm gonna put one in the washer and dryer and see what happens to it. Brutus. This was not the most enjoyable yarn to work with. And I think for what it is, we really should have better stitch definition. What I found is it was very, very stiff, and it just did not want to twirl and bend around my hook. It just didn't want to go. And the granny square pattern does not do the yarn itself justice. Here I've done a little bit of a stitch sampler. You know, I start with single, go into half double, go into double, treble. I did another row of singles so I could put some bobble stitches on there. So here you can see the colorway much nicer. It turns out it makes a pleasant pattern. The bobbles don't show great. So if you wanted to do them for a little bit of texture, you could, but certainly not if you want to be able to recognize a word or an animal or some specific design. It is more, you'd use it more for texture. Now I am going to frog this. I'm going to put the camera on something so that I can have both hands to do this. Okay, so I've got highly sophisticated studio equipment here, an Amazon box that I've got the camera sitting on just so that I can use both hands to frog this. Let's see. Those are coming out very easily. I didn't expect too much trouble with this because it's so stiff and sturdy that even though it does have, the wool fluffies, I didn't really expect them to stick or get stuck. What I was concerned about is there were so many inclusions in the wool, and I think I put a picture of that up for you to see what I was talking about. Because I was sitting in church doing these. So filming wouldn't have been appropriate. But yeah. But even with all those inclusions in the yarn, it frogs out quite easily. So it gets an A+ on the frog test. I'm not sure it does on anything else. Let's do the wash and dry. So here I don't think we even need the ruler to see that washing and drying had severe consequences on this yarn. It felted. That's from the washer. You can see it felted and shrunk. Though that is to be expected with something that is 100% wool. It also faded quite considerably. This is the dark brown. So you can see, if I put them side by side, just how much that faded. Get the tail out of the way there. And that's just from the washing machine. So that's the washing machine. This is the dryer. Not only is it totally misshapen, but has shrunk even more than the washer and felted up quite considerably. It's almost a solid piece now. Though considerably softer. It is considerably softer than sort of the coarse texture of this one. But still, like, I wouldn't touch it and go, oh, that's soft. I wouldn't use the word soft even to describe this. Felty, sort of rough felty, maybe. But you can see clearly that you would have to treat this wool very, very carefully in order to preserve it in any way. So, final thoughts for Stenli Etho. Yeah. I will never buy him again. I think there are some important elements in local production, ecological concerns, but we can do better than this. We can do better than this. Maybe I've got to try some GOTS cotton, but this eco wool is just not worth it. 2 thumbs down. 2 thumbs way down.